Hey, Wampus Cats. Welcome back to another episode of Talk from the Middle. I'm your host, Braxton, and this is my co-host. Or, yeah, co-host?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Amaya.
And we have a guest here. His name is...
Hi, I'm Officer Thomas with the Atoka Police Department.
So, you said Mr. Thomas?
Officer Thomas.
Oh, Officer Thomas.
Yes.
So, Officer Thomas, how was your day so far?
It's going well. We had some things going on this morning, but we got it handled, and it's going well. It's a good day so far.
That's good. So, I also have a question for you. How is being a school resource officer and a deputy how do they differ?
Well, I've been both. I'm currently a police officer, and I've been a school resource officer before. There is a lot of difference in the job, but in many ways it's also the same. The difference being, with the school, you're not going to have as much of a jurisdiction as you would being a deputy or a police officer. Your areas you can effectively go to are a lot more restricted. And, typically one wouldn't view kids as criminals or, people you have to be suspicious of. So you got to kind of change your mindset when you go on shift.
Yeah.
Because they're just kids, especially the younger ones. You have to be more personable. You have to, engage more with students rather than, in regular police. It's typically you're dealing with more adults than anything, and so it's a lot different for sure.
Which one do you like better?
Honestly, I liked my school resource job when I had it. One, just speaking bluntly, the hours were nice,
Yeah.
But I did like, connecting with some of the kids there and speaking with them, because when you're a school resource officer, you kind of adopt a informal counselor position, and so you get the trust of some of the kids there, some of the maybe more troubled kids, and they can come to you with their issues, and then you can help them solve it outside of school, and it's a fulfilling job.
Yeah. Probably a lot less stressful.
Yeah, at times there's times where it can be very stressful, but
Yeah.
overall, I'd say being school resource, it's less stressful.
Okay. It's your turn.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. What were your steps needed to get your job?
Well, typically to be a school resource officer, a lot of times you don't have to be a cop first, but they do prefer that you work in law enforcement before you become school resource. But what they look for when it comes to school resources and officer, they look for a good moral character. They look for someone who's put together well, who doesn't lie, doesn't cheat. He is honest with himself and with others. And typically you want someone who, is just going to show up and do the job when the job needs to be done. And then, of course, literally, you have the background checks, you have the doctor's appointments for the physicals, you have the training it takes, and it all takes a little bit of time. But it takes a little while to get into this field, into law enforcement, into the school resource officer. So if anyone's ever looking to get into it, just don't expect to fall into it right then and there. It's something you got to work towards, something you got to work for.
So, have you been in any, military before or any other... I know you were a school resource officer, but before that...
I was never military. My father was. He was in the Marine Corps. He taught me a lot of valuable lessons that would come from the military. I did work in corrections before I became a police officer and a school resource officer. Corrections, I believe any police officer should work in corrections for at least a little bit, so you learn how to deal in that kind of environment, and you can talk to the people that have already been, charged for their crimes. But as far as military goes, no, I wasn't. I personally was not in the military. But there's a lot of fine cops that were, and the military definitely helps out a lot.
Yeah. Have you always wanted to do this job?
I wouldn't say being a police officer was always on my radar. It didn't occur to me until I was around 19 or 20 years old that I actually kind of liked the law enforcement field. So I started out, I used to work at Walmart, just doing stocking and unloading trucks and everything. And then one day, I kind of just thought to myself, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And I started thinking, I like helping people. I like being a part of something bigger than myself. And so the military wasn't the fit for me, but law enforcement was.
Yeah. So, what made you want to get into the job?
Just the sense of, it's like what a lot of, I guess, military guys might tell you, but it's the same with law enforcement or any other first responder jobs. There's like a sense of brotherhood there. There's a sense of belonging. Being part of something greater than yourself. There's a sense of camaraderie that comes with being willing to, sacrifice yourself for the greater good, for everyone else's safety. There's a sense of belonging there.
So can you say you made a lot of good relationships and?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some of the best people I've met have been police officers.
Yeah.
And on the other end, some of the best people I've met have been on the other end of the spectrum. They've been, people we've charged with crimes. They've not every criminal is a bad person. They just wind up the wrong place, wrong time. And I've met some really good people on both ends, for sure.
Yeah. My stepdad was a prison guard. I think he done it for 15-something years, and he said that he met a lot of good people that have changed. And
See, when I was a correctional officer, I only did it for 5 years. But there was, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there were some good people that I've met that were inmates in the prison.
Yeah.
And they made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and they were honest about it. They were willing to do their time, and and some of them got out and they've actually contacted me and thanking me for talking with them in the jails and in the prisons, and they've actually made something productive of their lives. And I wouldn't judge someone just because they've been to prison or jail before, because a lot of them they just made mistakes, and they are genuinely good people.
Yeah. I do believe that too, that anybody can change.
Oh,
I feel like.
For sure.
Yeah. What? Oh, yeah, I already asked that. Got mixed up. So what were the requirements for the job? What? Yeah, what?
Well, like I said earlier, you have to have a sound moral character, which they'll weed that out in the early stages. The chiefs and the instructors will, for sure. You have to take what's called an MNPI, which it's like a psychology test. It's 500 questions. It takes you a few hours to do. It's very grueling. But you have to answer that honestly. You can't answer it how they think that, don't answer it like how you think they would want to hear it. You have to just answer it how you honestly think, because a green flag, that's a red flag to them, and a red flag is a red flag to them. The honest person, the average person, is going to be somewhere in the middle. And so you have to just answer those questions honestly. Of course, the background check, goes more into it than, just your standard background check. You'll have the officers, calling your loved ones, calling neighbors from 10 years ago, asking if you were a good guy 10 years ago. There's a lot that goes into it. Then you have your physical stuff, which you have to be physically healthy to do the job. You got to be able to, physically move and be able to do the job itself. But, it's just like any other job. You go into the police station, you talk to someone, you say, hey, I want to be a cop, or I want to do this. Fill out the application, and, with any luck, I will recommend, if you ever do decide to try and do this job, that you show up with a good haircut, clean clothes, because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't. Because that will take you far. Trust me.
Even if you've ever been to jail, can you still be a police officer?
You can't be a police officer if you have any felonies.
Yeah.
That's already you're cooked if you have a felony. But there are some misdemeanors that they can work around. Like say you were just a kid and you got caught stealing candy from the store or something.
Yeah.
They're not gonna press
Hold
you
that
on
against
that.
you.
Yeah, they're not gonna really press you on that one. But the more serious the crime, the less likely you are to be a
Yeah.
police officer, and the amount of time it's been since you've committed the crime. So
Yeah. That's your turn.
Did you have any training, and would you say it was hard?
yeah, there's a lot of training that goes in the job, and there's required continuing training every year. But the start of it is you go to what's called the CLEAT Academy. It stands for Council and Law Enforcement Education and Training. And so what that is, it's what you would think the police academy is, just called the academy. So what you'll do is, you'll do your book learning there. Then you'll get into the more physical stuff like fighting and defensive tactics. You'll drive, you'll shoot. And the whole process is it's a few months long, 3 or 4 months long. And you have to stay up there when you train. So I wouldn't call it boot camp because that's not at all what it is. But it's definitely hard. It's not for the faint of heart. Like you have to want to be a cop to be able to go through the training for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever felt at one point like giving up? Like you're like, this is.
Oh yeah, all the time. Especially for DT, it's defensive tactics. It's like a 2 to 3 week course, and it's the main goal is that they don't want you to give up, and they'll try everything they can to just get you to throw in the towel and say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't worth the paycheck. I don't even have to do this. I'm going to just leave. They're going to try and get you to that point. The main thing is you don't stop moving and you keep going and you fight past that point.
Yeah.
Their whole goal is to get you to realize, that, if you're out there on the street and, your nearest backup's 3 or 4 minutes away, that doesn't seem like that's a whole lot of time. But when you're in a fight or you're fighting for your life, that is a massive amount of time. 3 minutes when you're fighting someone is a great deal of time. And so what they're trying to get you to do is to learn how to fight past that exhaustion and to to live to see another day. So and it's a tough mental thing you have to get through.
Yeah. I know that our town's not like that big, but is there really a lot that goes on in this town?
Yeah, there's enough like what you would think criminals would do in a town. They pretty much do it. And we're growing every day. We have a lot of tourists come through. We have a
Yeah.
lot of truckers come through, and then we're getting more and more people move here every year. In fact, the police department just had to hire a few new officers just because we're getting that big, and then we're here within the next 5 to 10 years. We might even double in size. Is what the plans are. So it's definitely any crimes that you can probably think of. They've happened here, and so we're not overwhelmed with crime or anything, but we stay busy for sure.
Yeah. About how many calls do y'all get a day if you
Oh, it just depends really. Some days you'll get lucky and you won't even hear the radio go off, and other days it's one after another after another after another. It really just depends. Usually, like how you would think, towards the weekends it gets a little bit more busy, and then but it really just depends on the day.
Yeah.
You really can't predict it.
Do y'all ever get a lot of false calls? Somebody calls something in that's fake.
Oh yeah, that happens almost every day. And you kind of get a sense of, well, if you do the job long enough, you kind of get a sense of this call, we're going to take it seriously because you take every call seriously, of course, but something in the back of your mind's this one's probably, it's not real. It's not something that we're really going to have to deal with in the future, but you got to go check on it. But like I said, like over time, you just develop like a sixth sense when you can just kind of tell. It's like, this one's probably a fake call.
Have you ever got like that feeling that was fake call and it was like a real crime?
There's been a few times, yeah. That's why it's dangerous to become complacent in this job. Because, like I said, you'll get so used to some fake calls and everything, and then one day it's just real, and then you're caught, off your guard, and bad things can happen.
Do you have to have a certain mindset to do this job?
That depends on how you mean by a certain mindset. There's different kinds of cops out there. You got your gung ho, ready to go get 'em cops, ready to hit the ground running every day, want to go arrest all the criminals. Then you got your kind of laid back cops that they're not as gung ho as the other cops, but like they're more relaxed. They can talk to people better than the other cops can. They know more people. They're more approachable, and it's kind of a mixture. The main thing you got to have is just you want to do good for the community. That's the main thing. Is you'll be willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good.
Are there ever times like you have to force yourself out of bed in the morning just to, like you're like, I just don't want to?
Oh yeah. That's the case with any job, I reckon. But yeah, which for me it's not that bad because I do love my job. I genuinely love being a police officer. So every morning I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to go to work, but it's like, well, I'm working the dream job. I love being a cop. I love this job, so it's not that bad. So.
Yeah. So say we ever have like a school threat or something, like what are y'all's precautions before y'all enter the school, and how long does it usually take for y'all to take action of it?
So yeah, we have plans, and we train on those plans. And our school resource officers here, the security guards, most of them are off-duty police officers.
Yeah.
So they already know the game plan, and we're less than a minute. The police department's less than a minute away from the schools.
Yeah.
So we've already discussed it. We have, plans for perimeters, and we know where the exits are and we know, entry techniques. And at least I've discussed with some teachers here on how to keep the doors safe and locked and everything. And there's definitely there's always improvements to be made, but I'd say overall, y'all are pretty safe here.
Yeah. I feel pretty safe because I like the locks on our doors and the pods that we have.
Yeah.
I feel like them were really good.
Yeah, and also you can take, those pool noodles. You can cut those into little pieces and put them on the hinges of those doors. That makes it almost impossible to open up the door.
Yeah.
There's little deadbolts you can buy to put next to your doors to where they can't open them. There's a lot of things you can do as extra precautions.
I think my only fear with it is if I'm in, like, going through passing periods and stuff, I'm in the hallway, like, I'd just panic. I don't know what I would do.
The thing is you should do is just the run, hide, fight. And I don't know if you've ever learned that or not, but it's you run, and if you can't run, then you hide, and if you can't hide, then you fight.
Yeah.
So
like
it's self-explanatory.
What I've always told like my teachers and stuff, if there's ever a threat inside the building and we know he's inside the building, I like told him I'm going outside, and like we're kind of like if we're like walking back up, we're supposed to run to like Lowe's or in the highway or something.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys have like
we go through like a lot of
a lot of drills.
Yeah.
You sure you guys have designated like rally points, don't you? Like
no, we basically just like they'll call it over the intercom. They'll be like, this is like we're having our school threat drill, and then we'll get in the pod, and then the teachers will go through, try to open up the door, stuff like that.
Well, the important thing is for these drills and everything, always take them seriously when you do them, and also keep in mind other exits, because a lot of kids and a lot of teachers as well when they're exiting the school in these drills and everything, they only go to one exit because the human brain just works that way. They find an exit, and that's the one they're focused on, and they're missing all these other exits they could be taking.
Yeah.
So you got to keep in mind, keep your head on a swivel whenever you're doing this stuff to keep an eye out for different exits because
Because you don't know if there's more than
yeah,
one or.
yeah, it could be the difference for sure.
Yeah. And I kind of feel safer with, like you said, the police department's like right up the road.
Yeah, we're less than half a mile up the road, and
Yeah.
all of the security guards that work here, they're all off-duty cops, most of them, and so they already know the drill. So,
And we have like a lot on campus.
yeah, for sure.
And then we usually have one always inside the building, in each building, and then we have, like, they'll be sitting over there by, like, the crosswalk,
Yeah,
and then just driving around, stuff like that.
yeah, and also, we're instructed at the police department to keep around the school sometimes too, especially during the busy hours. We drive by, and sometimes we'll hang out in the parking lot and everything during the busy hours. So like, there's never a police officer that's not here during
Yeah.
school hours.
Well, do you have anything for me?
So what are y'all thinking of cops these days? Like, I'm not familiar with children, like
I mean,
teenagers.
I don't see a problem with them. I think that they're here to keep us safe. I respect them, and I've always been taught just to like respect one, and even if they like come off the wrong way or something to you, just like come off respectful, because if you're disrespectful, they can be as disrespectful back.
Right.
So
Well, I think there's a shift coming within law enforcement. A lot of the younger guys tend to be more aware of the stigma of being a police officer these days.
yeah,
And so they try and take steps to be more approachable and be more fair to people. What's your name,
Amaya.
Maya? What do you think?
Well, basically the same thing Braxton said.
Okay. Well,
I've had a lot of family like cops, and like Marines, military, just stuff like that.
yeah.
So I really do respect them, and I think that I mean, like, if somebody say I came off to you like in a rude way, I mean, you're just gonna be caught off guard, and then you're probably gonna like be the same way I was to you.
Police officers are held to a higher standard, and that's for good reason.
Yeah.
So, they should be more respectful than the average person. They should be more patient than the average person. But also, when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, a lot of the younger guys coming in are more aware of the stigmas of being a police officer. And there's more classes being offered with the continuing education for police officers on how to deal with the public in a more favorable manner and be, just generally more acceptable. So
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I think that's it. I think I'm good.
Amaya, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Well, I respect you for coming out here, and
Yeah,
thank
not a
you.
problem, guys.
Thank you for watching Wampus Cats, another episode of Talk from the Middle. I am your host, Braxton, and bye.
Bye.
Bye.